Is the high noon 12 o'clock hour roundtable for the Weiner Wellness Week, number 99. Look out, folks. The next Weiner Wellness Week is our centennial celebration for Wellness Weeks. It's incredible. But today at high noon, we're going to talk about probably the most important nutrient and from the world's foremost expert on this nutrient and these nutrient families. Yes, you, Todd. Todd Parker, folks. He's been here before. We're bringing him back because he's the best of the best. And we've known him for a long time, and we don't get our omega-3s from anyone else. So, Todd Parker, welcome back to the Weiner Wellness Week, and I hope you have some new tidbits of information for us today.
I hope I do too. I think I do.
Good, I know
There's
you
been
do.
some really interesting studies come out lately that I think are really reveal how intricate our bodies are, and just that a lot of things that they're discovering are things that they didn't measure before, but they have a big impact on health. So there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, we've talked about omega-3s, forever, and only in the last year about the SPMs. But I got to tell you, the SPMs have had more of an impact across the board than any other nutrient that we've seen come along. It just is such a broad spectrum of people that it's helping. Dr. Tracy and Dr. Tracy Stroup and Judy Mikovits, they have it as the central part of their protocol for either post infection or post jab. And they said that there's nothing more important than these SPMs for the systemic inflammatory condition, response, and issue that everybody is dealing with. So, we started out with omega-3s. We know how important they are and how, the quality of the one that you bring to the table. And then the SPM on top of that. It's just really been life-changing for a lot of people.
I'm glad you mentioned the post jab application of omega 3.
Yes.
They're studying right now, I can't remember the group, but they're looking at omega-3 as a antidote to long COVID. And we know that a certain pretty high percentage of people tend to fall into a certain physiological class, but a lot of people really kind of don't shake some of the symptoms of COVID, and they
Mm-hmm.
think it's due to the real heavy inflammatory shock that the body experiences. So they're right now, one of the things they're looking at is they're looking at kind of an injectable form of omega-3, which to
Hmm.
me seems unnecessary because we know that omega-3 taken orally is incredibly welcome by the body. It gets to
Right.
cut to the front of the line basically on absorption. But if you think about it, with omega-3's multiple pathways of calming inflammation, you're mentioning the PRM or the resolving mediator pathways, which are incredibly important. Then there's, displacing pro-inflammatory fats, supporting anti-inflammatory prostaglandins. There's just numerous ways that omega-3 reduces inflammation. So these people, when you get COVID, or even if you get a vaccine or a booster, which is basically just, like a homeopathic amount in a sense of the virus, the body
Mm-hmm.
goes into some sort of an inflammatory response. And the people who are unfortunately killed in this sort of a situation, it's because their body cannot control the inflammation, or the immune reaction doesn't unfold in a balanced way. So
Mm-hmm.
they're hypothesizing, and it's from observation, that people with low omega-3 status, that's a real big indicator for people who aren't going to do well with COVID and many other diseases. COVID's just, indicative. It's a case study in front of us that we're all living through, that shows that a balanced immune activity is, super critical for your long-term good health and short-term capacity to challenge pathogens in the body.
Well, that statement, Todd, that they're finding that people who are low in omega-3s saturation in their body are the ones that are going to have the worst response and the longest term. that pretty much sums up exactly what happened the last couple of years, because we know it's the single most deficient nutrient, in our society at this point. So no wonder it hit this country worse. I mean, there's a lot of other reasons. We're not going to talk about that. I'll talk about that tomorrow. You want to have some fun, Todd? Tune in tomorrow. I'm going to do a quick review of Robert F. Kennedy's book, The Real Dr. Fauci. It's a book review, so all I'm doing is reviewing the book, and it's all documented. But, there's a lot of reasons why we were the worst, but this is right at the top of the list.
Well, and, not to, beat the drum over and over again, but the other nutrient that is probably particularly deficient in North America, but also globally, is vitamin D.
That's right.
And if you look at the role that the active form 25-hydroxy vitamin D plays in immune activity, it's similar to resolving mediators in that the certain cells, I believe they're beta cells, utilize that active form to calm the immune response. I mean, all chronic diseases, as you know, are driven by inflammation, and the body, once the body unleashes this incredibly complicated, robust, hopefully multi-layered army, basically internally, it has to be controlled. Like it's since we've started to get a little bit political. Look at the way the Russians approach war. They just bring out the cannons and just lay waste to everything. There's nothing left, as opposed to being tactical and balanced and strategic. You want your immune system to be nimble. You don't want it just to be roaring like a lion and tearing everything to shreds that it touches. You want it to be to differentiate between good and bad, between self and other. And without adequate vitamin D and omega-3 status, your chances of your body, deploying its forces, so to speak, in an effective way, it doesn't cause collateral damage, and the collateral damage could mean you. Gosh, it's just so easy to keep your omega-3 and your vitamin D status up. Take a couple of your soft gels a day, and you're going to be in good shape. And then what are we looking at? 50 cents a day or something like that? I mean,
oh yeah, it's incredibly inexpensive, especially in the whole scheme of things. And as you said, the two most deficient nutrients are available in one single formula with omega-3D here at Nutritional Frontiers in the World of Wellness, because it's that important. They're the two most deficient nutrients. Why shouldn't they be in the same formulation? And that's what we made sure of. So you're absolutely right. And that's what the simplest thing that people could be doing is just taking a couple of soft gels a day, getting the high amounts of omega-3, an adequate amount of vitamin D3, and there it is. You're done. It's all there. This guy's over in the audience nodding his head, right? Yeah, that's right. Oh, we like to go even higher on D, but yeah, it's there. And that's what you got to do. So, okay, Todd, we got a little off course, but let's talk about some of the new studies that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah. A couple of things that have come out of the scientific community lately that I find particularly interesting and intriguing and supportive of what we're all doing here. I tell people that the foundation that everybody should be taking non-negotiably is omega-3, obviously. If you can get a product with vitamin D, that's a great way to roll. Probiotics first thing in the morning. That's just got to be your routine. I mean, the research on the microbiome, how it influences basically everything, including our mood. You can almost make the case that the blend of living creatures that we have in our digestive system are calling the shots in a lot of sense. I don't go that far. I believe we have our own agency here. But as far as mood, depression, immune activity, just systemic health, the gut's got to be healthy. And that means, eating a lot of high fiber foods, fruits and vegetables, taking a multi-strain probiotic. And I obviously, then I also tell people to take a multiple vitamin. Some people have said, well, you take a multiple vitamin, you're just making expensive urine. I say nonsense to that, because
if it's Centrum, yes.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. Good luck even breaking that down.
Yeah, you're not, no.
But it's even if look, everybody out there is deficient in something. Everybody is, And there's a reason why we need these nutrients in our body. They perform essential roles, and if the levels aren't adequate, the physiology is just not going to be optimal, and your health is going to reflect that. So a multiple vitamin, a good one, is key. Now, the study that came out recently, I don't know if you saw it. I can send it to you after we talk today, but it showed that in an elderly population, the subgroup that took a multiple vitamin mineral. Now, I haven't seen the actual formulation yet, but I take that to mean all the minerals and all the vitamins in one product, right? That they had up to a 30% reduction in all form dementia. That is massive. I mean, we're literally looking at something that, if we all live long enough, we have got a pretty high probability of facing, and it's happening earlier and earlier. Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. What a nightmare. I mean, losing capacity of your mind and not knowing who you are, being able to take care of yourself, and that you can take, again, something that, maybe costs you 35, 40, 50 cents a day. I don't know. And you get a significant reduction in dementia. Is just, it's huge. And then now you take that and you look at what's the driving force of these dementias. Well, it's considered to be an immuno upregulation of immune cells, where you produce the byproduct is tau proteins and amyloid plaque and whatnot. And so omega-3, I mean, that's what omega-3 does. It reduces that chronic ongoing inflammation. So you start looking at this pattern: your gut, your micronutrient intake, your healthy fat intakes, all those are going to affect your physiology. And, Joe, what we're talking about, the PRMs, but more than 10 years ago, they didn't even know what they were. Until recently, they couldn't even really measure them, and yet we know that they're always active in our body at different levels in different parts of our body. So I don't know if you saw that study, but, to me, people just need to supplement their diet with just, it's on an individual basis. It should be personalized. But to my mind, a multiple vitamin, omega-3, and probiotic, I consider to be the foundation, as well as getting your protein with your meals, particularly at breakfast. What are your thoughts?
That's funny you say that, because about 20 years ago, when I was with Douglas Laboratories, a major manufacturer, a long-term, player in this industry, we put together, we used to do a lot of convenience packs, and we put together a pack that I designed called the Core 4 pack. And this had a multivitamin mineral, it had omega-3, a probiotic, and CoQ10, an antioxidant. And we used our CoQ10 for it. And to me, that was the the Core 4 for the foundation. Now today, we know a lot more. We know that more vitamin D is needed than just what would be in a multivitamin, right? So that has to be in there as well, additional D3. But those really are what make up the probiotic. Maybe today I would do the probiotic with an enzyme, a digestive enzyme, since we're also deficient in enzymes as well. Yeah. So we have Probzyme for that, which is a combination, probiotics and enzymes. So the core, the foundation, that's still there. It doesn't change. We may add to it, but it's still there. And at the core is always omega-3s and vitamin D3.
Yeah.
And now perfect. A multivitamin, like you said. And that's foundational support. Now, why is it foundational support? Because these are nutrients we should have gotten from our diet. We should get from a diet, a perfect diet. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore. No matter how you shake it, it doesn't exist. I mean, it's to the point I never thought I would have to read a label on fish, that you buy. But you have to, because you want to know that it's wild caught and not farm raised, right? And so even on fish, you've got to read. You've got to understand where it comes from. So a perfect diet, it's just impossible. You must supplement your diet.
Absolutely, 100%. Even people who are in the know and who have dedicated their life to this field, like you and I have, and are somewhat, educated in this, it's still really hard. It's hard to eat perfectly all the time. It's just, because you go out, and you're on the road. Even if you're at home, maybe you're tired and stuff, and maybe sometimes the pastrami sandwich sounds great.
Pastrami sandwich always sounds great to me.
I know. How much longer do we have? But it's not easy. So taking that multiple vitamin, how many? I mean, honestly, I've been in so many rooms full of people, and you had to say, "Hey, put your hand up if you've had one serving of fatty fish this week," and maybe you get 2 people out of a room of 100,
Right.
and that's usually tuna. Which based on government guidelines, you can't eat more than 2 cans a week. Excuse
Well,
me.
here in Pittsburgh, Todd, if you ask people that, they think that's a fish sandwich a fried fish sandwich from the Oyster House, or that might be the best one in town. The rest of them,
Yeah, play a fish at
and of course we
McDonald's.
have we got the whole. I know I'm getting in trouble for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. We got the whole Catholic Church helping the problem by having fish fries every year during Lent too. So fried in soybean oil. But anyhow,
Hey, if I
you're
didn't know
right.
if I didn't know you probably came from a Catholic background, I'd take you up on that battle right there. I mean, easy now, Protestants.
Exactly, but you're so right. People do not eat. Yeah, what is the considered the right dose in food would be 3 to 5 servings of fatty fish a day, right? I mean a week.
I mean, okay, so let's take a look at this. I
Okay.
believe the last time I researched this, a can of tuna has about, and that's chunk tuna, would have about
Yeah.
450 milligrams of DHA. So let's say that a serving of fatty fish, salmon, tuna, what have you, would have
Mm-hmm.
500 milligrams or something like that. So 3 servings of fish a week, that would give you 1.5 grams.
Yeah.
When if people have elevated triglycerides, or they're really seeking to keep their inflammation under control and build healthy cells, we know that we want them to be ingesting 1 gram to 2 grams a day.
Right.
So but I mean, look, I think that people should eat more fish. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very healthy protein. A lot of good fats come along for the ride. There's some great minerals in there. It's a really healthy alternative. And
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't be eating that beautiful blackened ribeye every day, bone in ribeye. Oh man, I'm getting hungry, Joe.
Oh.
But
Oh.
but you can't eat
As
it
long,
every
hey,
day.
as long as
So
it's grass fed, Todd, it's okay.
yeah, well, that makes it better for sure. Just to make a quick comment, people talk a lot about the Mediterranean diet, which I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of. I always have been, but it's really a dietary pattern, and it's not necessarily Mediterranean. What it means is, eating the fruits and vegetables, eating the whole grains, eating the nuts, not eating too much, cow and beef and lamb and that sort. Getting your
Mm-hmm.
fish.
Mm-hmm.
That's coffee. Even coffee is rich in polyphenols. It's a
Mm-hmm.
superfood. Dark chocolate. If people
Mm-hmm.
out there, I can't tell you. Well, I can tell you, and you already know. So many people have sweet tooths, and they really have a hard time controlling their sugar. But there's
Mm-hmm.
ways that they can approach that. Like eating dark chocolate over 70% cocoa.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as sweet, but you get your fix, and it's actually, surprise, surprise, fantastic for you. So
It is. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And coffee, as you said, yeah. And, you mentioned, the Mediterranean diet. And over there, when they drink coffee, they drink a small cup, right?
Yeah.
It's not these huge 12, 16 ounces. No, it's a small, we call it espresso. They call it a cup of coffee.
Right.
That's the way you should be drinking it, and it does, and it is loaded. Especially if it's organic, it's loaded with polyphenols and antioxidants. But that's just it. The perfect diet, whether it's what you eat or what you drink, it just does not exist anymore. And then sometimes it's by choice, and sometimes it's by necessity. But that just goes to show you we need to supplement our diet. And if more than anything else, Todd, the reason we're talking today is about omega-3s and SPMs. And I'd say over and above even the multivitamin mineral, this is the nutrient that's most deficient in our diet.
Well, that, I guess, kind of leads me to the next study that I wanted to share with everybody.
Look at that. I served it right up for you.
Right
There you
up.
go.
So you know what telomeres are, obviously.
Yes.
Telomeres are at the end of our genes, and it's the analogy that people often use is that it's like the ends of shoelaces.
Right.
And the shorter they get, the more it indicates biological age.
Right.
Recent studies, I think there's about 5 of them. They're all on animals, but they're going to move to humans now. And there has been other studies on humans, but they're still looking at it in more precise ways now. shows that increasing the omega-3 content in your cells, taking it in dietarily, and then it gets incorporated into our body, slows the rate of telomerase shortening, which means slows the rate of biological aging. We all
Right.
know about chronological. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
time's flying by. Where did September go, Joe? It's mind-boggling.
I
Time's
know.
one measure, but it's really not a measure of how old we are in a sense. It measures, to the time that we were born to where we are now chronologically, but that doesn't tell you anything about your health status. Your biological age is really the whole key there, and there are
Right.
a lot of tells. I mean, are you able to do push-ups, that reflect your age? Like, I'm 58 and I can do 58 push-ups. That's a good sign of biological
That's a
health.
good sign. Right.
There's other markers, but really the gold standard is the telomerase length, and it's just exciting to see. And so, you talk about the PRMs and all these anti-inflammatory pathways in the omega-3. One, it's easy to make the assumption, and I don't think that they pinpointed necessarily the pathway, but we know that inflammation ages us. Chronic inflammation ages us, causes disease. It drives diseases forward. So it's easy to hypothesize that, but this inflammation calming effect of omega-3 not only will help slow down the progression of diseases, reduce pain, help our immune system to act in a more balanced way, but it's literally slowing down the biological aging of our body, which is an extraordinary thing if you think about it.
And there's a perfect reason for it, and that is that all degenerative disease, of which aging is one, premature aging, we should say, is a degenerative disease. It all starts with cellular degeneration, and that brings us right back to the telomeres. That's the that coating on the end of our cells, on the end of our DNA. If it frays away too soon, that cell ages too soon, and that's premature cellular death. And maybe what's even worse, Todd, is senescence, when those cells don't necessarily die, but they mutate. That's even worse. That's when they're susceptible to foreign invaders, especially up to and including cancer. I mean, that's just a fact. Okay, so, but yes, it does start at the cellular level. That's why the omega-3s are so important. Every cell is covered with omega-3s. Your whole brain, okay? I mean, you can't run out of reasons that we should be taking omega-3 fatty acids on a regular basis. Let's shift a little bit, Todd. Let's shift into the SPM now. It's been about a year or so we've really been pushing and marketing this product, Specialized Pro-Resolving Mediators. That's what SPM stands for. They are derived from omega-3s, but they get into a much deeper systemic inflammatory pathway. So let's go into that now.
Yeah, well, it's been discovered, as we discussed in the past, that the EPA, the DHA, and the DPA, and potentially other omega-3 fats that we take dietarily or supplementary, that get incorporated into our cells, they're continuously being in different ways in different parts of our body simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very localized reaction. But these long chain the omega-3s are known as long chain,
Mm-hmm.
unsaturated fatty acids. It's because
Right.
there are a lot of different carbon molecules that make them up. And so what the
Mm-hmm.
body does is, in times of in a response to inflammation, the body makes these compounds. Like, I like to call them, what you're offering the practitioners, pre-resolving mediators. That's the 14 HDHA, 17
Mm-hmm.
HDHA, and 18 HEPE. The
Mm-hmm.
first two are derived from DHA. The last one is derived from EPA. And they're just basically oxidized or shortened. They're taking a very long chain fat and turning it into a very, very small signaling chemical, basically. These intermediate
Okay.
chemicals that I mentioned, I call the 14, 17, and 18,
Mm-hmm.
just to shorten it. They're further metabolized in our body into the active specialized pro-resolving mediators, like, say, resolvin D3 or D2 or something like that. The science hasn't got the science is just getting to the point where you can take one of these resolvins. There's many categories: lipoxins, marasins,
Mm-hmm.
resolvins, and a few other different categories. But they're just starting to see where certain types of inflammation will respond to certain categories of these compounds. But what I think is so great about what you're offering people is you're offering people basically omega-3 with the substrate of these. It's further down the line to becoming these specialized pro-resolving mediators that the body can take and do with it what it will. And there's just a lot of situations where the body's capacity to even convert the omega-3 that it has into these compounds may be challenged, enzymatically, just, personal, unique, idiosyncratic uniqueness that we all have, lifestyle issues. Say you're post-operative or post-injury, probably those pathways are going to be overwhelmed. So putting in these pre-resolving mediators to support the production of the specialized pro-resolving mediators, you see it all the time. I talk to your sales force, I get calls from people, and they're just like really blown away by the result that their practitioners are getting with this material. And just goes to show the things we're talking about, these very, very fundamental things in the body, very, very fundamental processes. If you can get those in order, then it manifests in good health and, reduce biomarkers of inflammation. You can see it in the testing.
And we've seen, as I said earlier, this formula, the SPM that we offer, is in the cornerstone. It's the cornerstone of our protocols for anything inflammatory or inflammation. If it's whether you've been sick, virally sick, okay? That's the best way I'm going to say it, because I refuse to say the word. That's like Voldemort to me. That which shall not be named, right? I don't want to give it any energy. But if you've had a viral infection, or if you decided to get the shot, or any of them, you must take SPMs to resolve any inflammatory issues that may arise from either of those.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
Sorry. Were you talking? You were.
Sorry, my neighbor was asking me if it was my clothes in the dryer. I knew someone was gonna. I knew that was gonna happen. Anyway, yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's important also to remember that these pathways that we're talking about, the resolving mediator pathways, they don't just control inflammation; they also promote healing. Think about that. So it's not just, hey, immune system, we've had, it looks like, you've done your job, go circulate elsewhere, or however that plays out. But it also promotes the healing pathways in which tissues are repaired.
Right.
And, we all know that that's a continuous process in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, that's one of the reasons why good sleep is so important, because that our body's reparative pathways and restorative pathways upregulate while we're sleeping. The body, particularly the liver, kicks out all kinds of proteins and fats and compounds into the bloodstream that cells can pull in. But that process is, the cells know when to engage in healing or upregulate their healing pathways. Like one of these days, we should talk about the SIRT pathways. It's a little complicated, so we'll skip it now. But we're talking about the minutia in our body and how it reflects in sort of more macro issues. And there's pathways in our cells, like the SIRT1 pathway, when it gets upregulated, that the cell goes into a major rebuilding process. And so there's, all this stuff is very, not only helps us feel better, but it's building a better body and slowing down biological age. And what a powerful thought, that we can actually do that, but we can with these low cost, non-toxic nutrients that are found in food. And we need them in higher levels, and we get it from our diet. So we go to Nutritional Frontiers and get these wonderful supplements that really change our entire physiology.
Well, the reason, we need them in higher amounts than we can get from food, even if the food was perfect, because we're so far behind the 8 ball here. I mean, just catching up to level playing ground, right, to zero, before we can even attempt to get on the path to optimal health. And that's what these nutrients do. That's why you need therapeutic levels of the nutrients. It's not to just catapult you into super health. It's first to get you right back to the starting ground, because we're far behind the 8 ball when it comes to that. Let's talk about dosing a little bit, Todd. What have you seen dosing-wise on SPM, low end, high end, different conditions? And while you talk about that, I have mine right here. I'm going to take mine while you do that.
Well done. Well, um, it's all fairly anecdotal at this point, but you know, just like in anything, if you have a lot of weight, you got to lift harder, you know. So if someone is really in a bad way as far as inflammation or, you know, immune dysregulation, you know, you want to take more. And, you know, with your material, I think we have a minimum. Remember, what you show on the label is a minimum. There's actually
Right.
higher levels, but a minimum of 200 micrograms per gram. It's actually quite a bit north of that, and
Right.
that's much more than the main competition out there. If you're taking, you know, 4 soft gels, you're getting at least, you know, a total of a milligram, which doesn't seem much, but these are things that work extremely powerfully at, you know, at very low levels. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you just gotta just kind of feel it out and see what your patient responds to. Really, you know, I know these things are a little bit more expensive than regular omega-3 to get the PRM levels up, but you know, we're trying to help people get in a better state of health, and so I think you start on the high end and then titrate down once you start getting some results. That's what I would always do. You don't want to try and chase that dragon. You want to get ahead of it, you know, and then
Mm-hmm.
back off a little bit. So I'd probably, you know, I'd be starting about maybe 2 soft gels twice a day. And your upcoming formula that will, I don't know if we can talk about it or not, but you have,
Sure, we can talk about it.
yeah, probably by December you'll be offering your customers a liquid version of this,
Yeah.
which, as you know, we made 400 micrograms per teaspoon. By the way, I know it's not terribly interesting, but the whole measurement of these pre-resolving mediators of 14, 17, and 18 has completely changed, and the levels have, in most products, are about half of what they were. And that's because they came up with standards. I forgot the name of the lab that produces these standards. Not Covance, but anyway. So, but your customers can rest assured that your product is still, as it's stated on the label, over 200 micrograms per gram,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good, really quite a solid dose. If you look at regular anchovy derived, you know, concentrated fish oil, you know, you're gonna be down just, you know, almost unmeasurable amounts. I mean, there's going to be some in there, but
Mm-hmm.
this material, your material, is made in a German pharmaceutical facility,
Right.
uh, and it's a pretty in-depth process. It's pretty high science and engineering to fractionate the lipids and to get this fraction that has the predictable levels of the 14, 17, and 18, which we
Mm-hmm.
know are converted into the body into resolving mediators that resolve inflammation and balance immunity.
Well, we can tell by the results, and that's
Right,
always the best way to tell.
for sure.
We see people getting results. We've all gotten results ourselves personally. I have. And, it's one of those, also, it's one of those nutrients. You don't realize how much you need it till you stop taking it. You start taking it, you start to feel good. And feeling good then you start to take that for granted until you stop taking it, and then you think, wow, where'd that ache come from? Where did that stiffness come from? Where did that, and then you realize that your body still requires these nutrients. Because look, this is like a lifetime worth of inflammatory, activators we've been doing, right? I mean, it just didn't start yesterday. We've been bombarding our bodies for our whole lives. So when someone says, how long do I need to take this? I say, well, if you've been alive about, 4, 5, 6 decades already doing damage, maybe you could give it a few decades that you have left to continue taking these nutrients. In other words, as long as you plan on eating, plan on taking them. That's the simple answer.
For sure. You know, there's a feeling, or a sentiment, or maybe an understanding that people don't really respond to the concept of prevention. You know, out of sight, out of mind.
Very, very good. Yeah.
Why should I, you know, worry about these things? I'm not experiencing
Yes.
them now. And it's like,
Yeah.
when you stub your toe, and then you realize how damn important your toe is and what a critical role it plays in your whole body and how it's always
Yeah.
working for you. Or whenever
Uh-huh.
something hurts, like your low back or just whatever it may be, you realize, and so what we want to do is we want to prevent all that. Obviously you can't prevent stubbing your toe, but you can prevent most chronic diseases, because most of them are lifestyle related, they're deficiency related. And, I mean, it's a good thing to really pay attention to what's going on around us and learn from it. And when you see people that are suffering from, maladies and disease and that type of a thing, it should really be a wake-up call to get us all motivated to preserve the good health we have. And, that's very fundamental. You got to move, you got to get some exercise, you got to interact with other people. A lot of people think the Mediterranean diet, that it gets this thing as being the where-all, end-all, or however you say it. But I've spent a lot of time in Spain in particular, and it's a very social. There's tons of interaction with people. And a lot of people think that might be the thing. So, you need to spend time with people. You got to have friends. You got to have family and love people. And then,
meals are a social event there. That's
absolutely
what you're leading towards. It's not just hurry up, eat it, shovel it down, get on about your business. They take their time and enjoy their meals. And that's a big difference in the lifestyle. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, in Spain, that's called sobre mesa, which means over the table. And
over the table, I like that.
You take your time, you bring in the courses, and we don't always have the luxury of that. Like, I mean, today we'll wolf down our lunch probably because we got to get back.
Sandwich.
Yeah, but on Sunday, designated time when you eat with other people. It might sound ridiculous, but having community and and having friends and interacting with people that was another study that came out recently. It said that check this out. This is mind blowing, but hopefully it'll help people to realize the importance of friendship and love and all that. They did a study that came out last week that showed that being and you can put in there anxiety to depression because it's all kind of the same negative thought process going on, is worse for your health than smoking cigarettes.
Wow.
Right?
That's pretty strong. Yeah.
It's one study, but it was a big study. And all the people involved with it were really blown away by the results. So there's things we can do. We can reach out, we can create a community, and we can eat right. We can choose to eat right as best we can. And everybody has to. It's pretty simple on how to eat right. We know it. It means eating real food.
It's simple, but not always easy.
But not always easy. But I tell people, hey, if it's real food and it's prepared in a healthful manner, scarf it down, go for it. Then obviously you don't want to be gluttonous, because it's not necessarily good for your digestive tract. But if it's good, healthy food, it's good, healthy medicine, and eat robustly. And then obviously, since it's hard to do that, you take the multivitamin. You're not getting enough fish in your diet. You're not getting enough omega-3. You take your omega-3. Make sure you take care of your microbiome. And it's just blocking and tackling, right?
Basically, folks, if you're not eating, if you're not a sardine eater like I am, I love sardines.
Oh, yeah.
I eat them by the can, and anchovies too. But if you're not doing that, and even though I do eat them, I still take omega-3s. So if you're not eating a can of sardines every day, then let's get some omega-3 fatty acids into your life. Let's get a bottle of omega-3D supplied by Todd Parker. Omega-3D, folks, gives you 1.5 grams of omega-3s in just 2 soft gels. 1.5 grams in just 2. Now, the sweet spot, Todd, for most conditions I've always seen was somewhere around 3 grams a day. 2 to 4, to really affect a condition that's inflammatory. I know with Parkinson's, the Perlmutter protocol was 2 to 4 grams of omega-3s daily. Well, you get 2 soft gels of this product twice a day, and you're there. You're at 3 grams. That's a powerful dose. And as Todd mentioned earlier, if you're using our liquid, now our liquid currently, is 2,800 milligrams per teaspoon. And when we see that liquid SPM come in, wow, that's going to blow it away. But this is what you got to do on a daily basis. And the big advantage to the omega-3D is that D. We added that other deficiency product in there, deficiency nutrient in there. So you're getting your vitamin D as well. So, Todd, any parting shots for us? This has been a great discussion on omegas, lifestyle, SPM, inflammation, you name it. Long haulers, we covered a lot of information. Anything left for us?
Yeah, obviously you and I can talk for hours here, but I think that hopefully we talked about some areas that are, very au courant or, in the news right now and helpful for people. And as always, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much for giving me some time.
Well, you're part of our team, Todd. You have been since the beginning, and you'll always be a member as long as you're doing it and as long as we're doing it. So thanks for coming back, and go take care of that laundry, whatever that is going on back there.
All right,
and how many push-ups a day did you say you're doing?
Well, since I saw that study that says if you can do the amount of push-ups, your age, your chances of dying in the next few days is dramatically reduced. Every once in a while, I'll test myself and crank out. I'll do a couple more for the king. So maybe do 60, 65 or something like that.
All right, you're getting close to my number. You're getting close to mine, Todd.
I'm right behind you, baby.
I know. All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Todd Parker, everybody.
Thanks.
The crowd's going wild for Mr. Parker. Absolutely. So, folks, Omega3D available at the World of Wellness. Come on down or give us a call, 412-922-9355. Stock up for you and your family. It's 30% off. Stock up for the family. That's the important thing. Do it as a family activity. Keep that attitude of gratitude, and we promise you, you will live long and prosper.